Welcome to A Cup of Happiness. Hey everyone, Cindy Bettino, transformational healing, life coach, energy worker, and happiness expert. And welcome to A Cup of Happiness. And today we're talking about your superego. Oh, you can find the definition of your superego in any Psych 101 textbook. It's called your inner critic, and it's called your inner critic for a reason. You know, that voice that you hear inside your head that tells you you're stupid, you're an idiot, tells you how ugly you are, tells you how worthless you are, tells you what you shouldn't do. You know, that voice that doesn't want you to take any risks. Yeah, that voice. That voice that you hear whenever you look at yourself in the mirror naked. That voice that you hear if you trip in public. That voice that you hear whenever you make a mistake. Yeah. So the superego has a very important job. And its job is to make sure that you do not fail, that you don't make mistakes, that you don't be humiliated or judged or rejected or betrayed. It doesn't want you to step outside your safety zone, right? It doesn't want you to be authentic. It doesn't want you to try new things. It doesn't want you to, right? Because it wants to keep you safe. Well, that's all fine and good. And your superego does have some wisdom for you. I mean, it's the one that makes you look both ways before you cross the street, right? So it has some good qualities, but it has a lot of negative qualities as well. You see, the superego doesn't have any positive language. It keeps you in this box through criticism. And why it's so powerful is because the criticism that it uses, the language that it uses, even the tone that it uses, are words and tones that actually came from our adult authority figures as we were growing up. Every time that we were disciplined, humiliated, called out, told we were stupid by these people who were bigger than us, smarter than us, more powerful than us. Well, they had to be right. So if our teacher called us out for getting an F on a test, right, and humiliated us in front of the class, or told us, that we didn't have enough self-discipline, or if our coaches called us out, or our religious leaders, those words were actually imprinted in our superego, and those are the words that we hear on a daily basis sometimes. So every person has a superego. No one gets away with not having a superego. And every superego is critical, right? It keeps us from making mistakes that maybe we shouldn't make. But some of us have superegos that are so vicious that we actually not only turn on ourselves, but we actually turn on the people that we love the most, because we project that superego, our superego, onto other people. Well, if we think it, they must think it, right? If we think we're stupid, they must think we're stupid. If we think that we're horrible people, then they must think that we're horrible people too. If we think we're a loser, then they must think we're a loser. It's pretty scary stuff, right? So the best way to conquer your superego is to start listening to it and then start changing the language. Sounds pretty easy, right? So first you have to figure out which voice inside that head of yours is your superego. And I always say, the best way to figure out what your superego sounds like is to step in front of the mirror naked. Right? So that voice that tells you how ugly your thighs are, your butt is, your stomach is, your arms are, whatever. That's your superego. And then you start changing the language of the superego. Like, What if your superego were to speak to you like your best friend rather than your worst enemy? What if you were to change the language of the superego? See, I told you that the words that were imprinted, right, in the superego were the ones that where you were disciplined and humiliated and not seen, heard, or you were seen and heard, but not in your best of ways and your best of moments and your best of times. But what it didn't imprint was all the times that you were seen, you were heard, you did succeed, you did excel, you showed up in such an amazing way and you were praised for it. None of those words were imprinted in your superego. It's not balanced. It only has the critical words. So we need to start putting those words in. How would your best friend speak to you when you made a mistake? If your best friend came to you and said, "Oh, I did blank," which you did, right? And it didn't end well, right? What would you say to your friend? Would you call them a loser? Would you tell them they were idiots? Would you look at your best friend and go, "Oh, yeah, those thighs"? Really? No. No, you wouldn't. So, the best way to start conquering and managing the superego is to first pay attention to it. Listen to it. It does have some wisdom. It does. It makes us manage risks. It makes us, cross our T's and dot our I's, right? But that's about it. And then we start replacing the language of the superego. Instead of talking to ourselves like our worst enemy, start speaking to yourselves like you're your best friend. So, good luck. You can do it. You deserve to speak to yourself like your best friend.